Welcome to the Quality Conversation brought to you by Resume Wallet. This show is all about discussing what quality means in the talent acquisition ecosystem. I'm your host, Serge Boudreau, and today I'm joined by Kate Dole, who is the founder of the Grove Agency and has been in this industry for a long time. Kate, so excited to have you on.
Serge.
So I know who you are. I work with you. We've been in the industry together, but for the audience that doesn't know who you are, give us a little bit of a background.
I'm a modern day Renaissance woman, Jill of all trades. I've been in growth and marketing in HR tech, actually, for like the last decade. So from ATSs to onboarding software, recruitment marketing, specialized projects, just turned into my jam for the most part.
Yeah, and that's the reason I wanted to bring you on. The majority of the time we have TA leaders, HR leaders, and I wanted to get your perspective from the marketing side and someone who has deep expertise in recruitment marketing. I think you can give our audience a little bit of a different perspective. So you've been in the growth and marketing space for over a decade, as you mentioned. So what are the biggest shifts that you've seen in how companies approach talent acquisition and employer branding in this space?
I think it's kind of funny. About 10 years ago, employer branding didn't really mean anything to a lot of people. So that's been really fun to watch happen, like the awareness that there is a brand to a company as an employer. But since we picked it up the better part of like 8 years ago, I think it caught a lot of wind. What I see now is a lot of distribution of that talent brand ownership. So it's not just TA that has it. They're willing to give some of it to marketing. Some of their team leads or hiring managers are getting involved in what that looks like. And even some big firms are passing the baton to their employees, which has been kind of cool to watch. Like it's not just all on HR anymore.
Yeah. So interesting point, because I've recently been thinking a lot about what employer branding means, and is employer branding even relevant anymore? And what I mean by it is there a separation from employment brand to corporate brand, consumer brand? And I'm starting to feel that there's not as much. And like the context I want to give you on that is if someone has a bad experience in going through an application process or through the hiring process, they're probably not going to become a consumer of your product. Or if they go work somewhere else, they might not be aggressive in pursuing doing business with you, and vice versa. Same. They have a bad experience buying your product. They probably won't apply for a job at your company. What's your thoughts around that? Do you think like employment brand, corporate brand, they're all starting to really become one brand?
I think it's only going to become more true. Like the way that you're leaning, it is all one brand. The way that you treat your employees is the way that your employees are going to treat your customers. And the way that your customers perceive the way that you treat your employees is your brand. There's a little distinction that we like to play with sometimes in marketing over like word mark is one part of the brand, and you've got the visual identity, that's another part of the brand, and then we have like the brand strategy, which is another thing, but other marketers would probably shoot me for it. It's a false distinction where all we're really trying to say with different words is how people perceive your company. The perception is reality.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And I think there's something you mentioned in there that I find really interesting, because if you're not treating your employees right, so let's say you have a really good brand out there overall, and people see your brand, they recognize it, but then they go to your store and have a really bad experience with your frontline employee, it's going to give them a bad impression of your brand. And usually, if you take a step back, the reason that you're having a bad experience with that employee is because that employee is not having a good experience with that particular company, and all kind of cascades down. So if you're not treating your employees right, it's a good chance that they're not treating your customers right. And I guess we could say the same for recruiters. Like if recruiters are not treated right, they might not treat the candidates right as well.
In a completely unrelated conversation today, I said shit rolls up and downhill, and it doesn't matter if you're at the middle or at the bottom, but you're going to perceive it and pass that along to people, right?
Well, I'd like to get your perspective as a marketer, because I think what we've done over the years is really looked at employment brand as copywriting. It's what's on
Mhm.
your job ads, it's what's on your career site, and employment brand is way more than that. It's the perception of people that work there or could work there of what it is to work at your company. What's your take on that? Because if I look at career sites, I look at job ads, first of all, they're not realistic. They're not a real description of what actually it is
No.
to work there. They all look
Mhm.
the same. Like, how do we move away from that and actually have real conversations of what it is to actually work at that
So,
particular company?
uh, if I could give advice to everyone out there, and just be like, take a deep breath
Please.
and then acknowledge that your job postings and your career site it's drivel. It's all corporate speak. It's all polished to the point where it doesn't have any meaning anymore. There's no humanity left in it by the time you get into our mission is to insert bland corporate jargon here and carry on, right?
Yeah.
And the list of 25 bullet points of requirements, like 25 years of experience in TikTok, these overbloated things that you absolutely don't need, just further spread that gap between what you're looking for and what you're going to get. And then, like, we also kind of turn around and complain when the candidates or applicants don't have a realistic looking resume or application, but you're getting what you're giving, I think is what we're trying to get to here.
I agree completely. I'm curious though, if you think about copy and what's on the website job ad, a lot of it is driven to sell the job. Like, how do you see the balance between trying to sell a job versus actually finding the right match? Is recruitment marketing still too focused on volume over actual quality?
So yes, it is still too focused on volume over actual quality. And I don't think we're selling the jobs at all most of the time. What we're doing is saying what we think we should say. We have an opportunity there to be more honest about what it really looks like. I've long had some examples of people who've had some controversy. Uber is one of my favorite examples for like their working culture and it being toxic. But the idea behind this theory that I have, if they had been more upfront about like, are you an asshole? We're a bunch of jerks in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have opted into a more honest work environment. And
Yes.
it wouldn't be controversial. I think a lot of things that are going on in the world are probably telling us that there's some support to the theory that I have there. Now, like, that's on you. If you make your bad choices, whatever, but be more honest, have something more human in it. For the focus on the volume of hires, we're not incentivizing for anything else. So, of course, it's just going to be a high volume of mismatched candidates.
I think you nailed it. And I think this is where hopefully we're trying to move away as an industry. Like, how do we get to a point of a job ad career site is not only selling the job, but it's also kind of a way to opt out that you're not a fit, because recruiters have a lot of applications coming in. And a lot of times, like, if people knew the realistic picture of working there, they would opt out themselves. And James Ellis, who's a brilliant recruitment marketer in this space, always talks about the difference between recruitment marketing and maybe consumer marketing is in consumer marketing, you want to sell as many widgets as possible, right? Like, you want the message out there, you want to sell millions of them. But in reality, recruitment marketing should be about selling only the widgets to the qualified buyers in this particular case. So if you're going to say, the reality here is we work very long hours and fairly highly stressed, but here are the good things about it is you're going to learn things that is going to drive the rest of your career. You're going to make a ton of money. I think some people would be like, oh, well, I like the whole lot of money, but I'm not willing to do the other things. So I'm not going to bother to apply. That's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing, right? Like, we have to give them the option that they can opt out of not applying. The only way you can do that is giving them a realistic picture of what it is to actually work there, not this Instagram versus reality, as I like to call it. Be like, oh, everything's perfect. But then when you're in the job, you're like, oh, yeah, this is not what I was told or sold. And then they look for the first opportunity to exit and find something else. Hence the reason that we've been seeing a huge amount of turnover in the first 3 months that we have never really seen in the past. What's your take on that?
I think you're completely right. And that Instagram versus reality thing is sort of an endemic problem. Marketers and recruiters share this issue on a very deep level, I think. We're afraid of allowing people to opt out because our performance is measured on the top of our funnels. If we could flip it around a little bit, so assuming that we're going to be a little bit more honest going forward and allow you some things to opt into, like if you know that someone who needs constant direction isn't going to work well in your team, be clear about those kinds of things. It's not about being the coolest guy with the keg. It's helping me understand whether the work environment is right. And also remembering that the same things that you are picking up on all those applicants and the BS that you feel like you're wading through, the same thing's happening on the other side of the fence. They're perceiving the same stuff. They're looking at all of your competitors' job postings and they know where it's all the same fluff. But until we kind of flip the way that we approach the conversation, like marketing has to do the same thing. We're in inflection period at this point where it can't be all how many clicks on the ad, how many views on the landing page did we get. We have to turn it more into what is our impression and the engagement in our communities that we are building. With everything that's changing in SEO and advertising and AI, we have to go more to the middle and bottom of our funnels and look at the impact it's driving.
So one of the things that talent acquisition, the business, and everyone is trying to strive for is quality. And I'm curious, how does recruitment marketing in general, how do they support talent acquisition, recruiters in driving more quality applicants?
So in order to get there, you have to take 2 steps out and probably 2 steps back. It's going to work best, probably if we use an example, like recruitment companies are measured on speed and volume, generally speaking. Agencies and internal teams are rewarded for fulfilling positions quickly or hitting their application targets. So everything that we just said was fast and a lot. If that's what our performance is measured on, that's what we're going to have our vendors emphasize. Thinking specifically on the ATS, because it's a nice couple of steps back, even the ATS itself would be like the time for the completion of the application, the amount of applicants that would still come through. Like they're still beholden to that volume number rather than just the enjoyment on either side of using it, right? So it's kind of like asking a fisherman to catch as many fish as possible and then retroactively wondering why they're all bad fish. We probably need to have more conversations about what it looks like to measure off of quality. It's hard and messy.
Well, it's one of the things that we all struggle with because quality of hire is still very hard to define in the marketplace, right? Like, are they still there a year after? Is that really a quality measure? Because a lot of organizations, like you're a body and you're there and you're not causing too much trouble, so we're just going to keep you in that role, but we're not really blown away by your performance. So retention's a hard one to look at, and whose responsibility is it to? Did the recruiter and recruitment marketing did a good job of bringing perceived good quality candidate, and it's the hiring manager or the manager's job to make sure that they perform? Like all of these factor in saying, like, what should we be measuring when it comes to quality in the long run? And I can't say that I know. I really don't know. I'm still looking for those answers after being in this industry for a very long time. So
that's kind of the fun thing, right? Like that's the conversation that we need to have more. And in marketing any project, it's the same idea. Like what does success look like for you? What's going to make you feel like our engagement was successful? That's going to look different for everyone. And perhaps that's sometimes why we avoid the question entirely, because it's a little messy and hard to define. But we might be able to take some of the good parts of what technology companies have done and look at things like Net Promoter Score. I think there is an employee version of that, doing like the 30,
There
60,
is.
90 and seeing if we're getting a drop off and realizing that they're not the right match. Maybe that works for some places. But if we could even optimize for honest feedback loops, maybe the whole thing looks differently too. Of course, it's not going to work for everyone, but if we work in the little ideal world of great company culture, if you can have that two-way conversation, because that's where like the best marketing comes from.
A Net Promoter Score is a really interesting one because my friends at Smart Recruiter have been leveraging that to measure quality hires. After 90 days, the employee gets a question and the hiring manager or the manager gets a very similar question, and that gives kind of that Net Promoter Score on each side, and something that's fairly tangible to measure. At least it's a step above. But like I leveraged it years ago when I had Smart Recruiter as my ATS, and I thought that was going to be the new standard, right? But it hasn't. Like other ATS, other providers have not really looked at that aspect. So I guess it's still an open conversation that we're going to have to continue to have. But I want to move on to a topic that everyone is very well aware of in every industry, but talent acquisition, the talent market, AI has had a very big impact. And I'm curious in looking at the marketing side of it, what impact has AI brought to marketing in general and recruitment marketing? Has it been a net positive or not?
I think we're still in the messy middle is the shortest answer. But for them to work as well as they're kind of promised on the tin and perhaps get there, we have to be more honest with our inputs.
What do you mean?
Kind of like your employer value proposition being an overly polished, generic drivel sort of moment, the more that it's trending that way. And if that's what you're feeding into the AI for the matching, like what AI does well is pattern matching. That's really all it is at this point, is a pattern matching machine and probability generating machine, right? And for those things to work well, we have to be very self-aware and honest about what the patterns are we're seeking to match. Like if you think you want a self-starter, but they're not allowed to have any autonomy and make decisions on their own, you're going to get some shitty matches. Those contradictions get amplified in that world. And it's speeding up our ability to create those bad matches. So from a marketing perspective, I see a lot more bad marketing done faster, just like we're seeing more bad applications done faster. Can it help? Yes. But we have to be really smart about how we're using it. It requires us to step up a little.
Well, on that point, being at a conference this week in Las Vegas at Transform, there's a lot of vendors that are out there and basically selling that the AI is the solution to the quality problem that we're seeing in the industry. It's going to be extremely helpful in sourcing the right candidates and also matching the right candidates. I get it. I think there's some validity to that, but I still think, to your point, the inputs are absolutely critical, because if the job descriptions and the resumes are getting, well, they're leveraging AI to basically make sure that it's a good match, or at least it looks like a good match. I know we're very early on, but do you think as we progress that this is finally the fix? Like AI can be a huge part of the solution of fixing the quality hire problem.
So probably not all on its own. I do think there is a small minority at the moment. It'll probably grow faster than we realize. Like if we have this conversation in a year, it won't look the same at all. But there's a small minority of very passionate teams working very hard to use these new enabling tools to make a meaningful dent in the quality conversation, as it were, right? Like they're having the harder conversations around what it means to build something that optimizes for quality. So on that, I think we'll get there. So long as we always remember that when it comes to AI and automation or anything with a computer screen and a keyboard, it's garbage in, garbage out. So we have to hold ourselves accountable within that funnel.
I 100% agree. So putting all of that in perspective, what's one shift that we can do, leveraging AI or not leveraging AI, that we can do in recruitment marketing or HR tech that will actually move the needle of quality over quantity?
I think it's actually two things, or best thought of in two steps. One is going back to a point I've been making. Be honest about where you are and where you want to go, who you are and who you want, and build genuine information loops between your most engaged employees and your hiring process. Because sometimes it's easier to think about it outside of our immediate work, right? As a marketer, if I choose to over-optimize for churned customers or exit interviews, then I'm taking in too many of the wrong inputs. What I want to find are the people who are most enthusiastic about their roles and why they love it, and think more about who they are. So make it more about them and be honest with them what it is. And then when I say hiring process, I really mean like how you're doing your employer brand, how you're showing up, and what the process is going to look like. So setting reasonable expectations. If you do those things, because they're in your immediate control, and keep talking with the people who are trying to drive quality and moving out of those race to the bottom metrics that we've been stuck in, the more cost per clicks that marketing and recruitment get to share now, then we'll be in a better spot.
I love it. We do this segment at the end of every podcast of the Quality Conversation, and I want to do some quick hits for you. So I want to know what you're reading right now. Like, what are the good books in marketing, recruitment marketing, talent acquisition, or business in general that you're like, you should be reading that as a practitioner?
So I just finished Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. It really does land how to win friends and influence people for modern times. And it's legitimately a really good read. I'm currently reading The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I think I might be saying that wrong.
Oh, yes. Fantastic.
So good. It's like one page at a time and every one of them's a banger.
Oh, I agree, and I'm such a big fan of Naval. Like, I've been following Naval for a long time, and I think one of the things that he said recently that really hit me is how you create opportunity in this world right now is either if you're a creator, you're a software dev, you can build code. If you're not, that's okay. You should be creating content. You should be documenting what you're doing and putting it out there, because that is a differentiator, and getting people to find out who you really are is going to be a huge competitive advantage. And I agree completely. I love that you call Naval. Like, for everyone listening, follow him, because he's a modern day genius.
The whole book's available free
in the space of business.
And the whole book's available free online too, if you want. Like, you can just go and read a page a day. It's so good. I know I'm gonna return to it every year. And one more is This Is Strategy by Seth Godin. Similar format. Like, you can read a page and put it down and stew on it for the whole day. And they're all building off of each other. I think those two actually would go a long way to shifting how we talk about quality.
Well, Seth Godin is a legend in the marketing
this one's so good.
Side of the business.
So good.
Yeah, he's a good writer too. You know, there's some books in marketing, well, even in talent acquisition, that I'm like, like, I've read this so many times, it's just dry. Seth has a really good way of like making it interesting. So for all those recruitment marketers, TA folks, you should definitely check that out as well. Is there a favorite podcast or television series that you're following right now?
Those are so different.
I know. Well, give me both.
So I guess like a long-term BFF podcast is Tim Ferriss's. I love the people he interviews. And he's really good at bringing out more interesting conversation from them. even if it's not your GM, scrolling through his massive backlog of episodes for people that you do like, I guarantee the conversation he had with them is going to be great.
Well, on that, find the Tim Ferriss and Naval podcast. And to that point, like, Tim is an OG of podcasting. Like, he's one of the, I think he was for a while the biggest podcaster or the biggest audience for a long, long time. He's been doing it for forever, at least 15 years. TV, so when you want to just like veg out and not think about marketing or recruitment, what do you watch?
I don't watch much TV. We watched The Silo recently. It's on Apple TV, based off of some books. Also, Tim interviewed the author of the books that the show is based on. Super good. Really well written. Kind of immersive world.
I'm going to put you on a spot, and I would like you to give one piece of advice for TA, HR, marketers out there. Like, if you had to give one piece of advice, what would it be?
If you're feeling stuck trying to market a bad product, as it were, sometimes things are outside of our control, and that's the space we find ourselves in. Try and lean into bringing out more personality, at the very least, and bring out more human connection in your work. And then at least it won't hurt so bad, and you'll probably get closer to outcomes.
That's very good advice. Kate, it's such a pleasure to have you on the Quality Conversation. Some fantastic insights, and I think that's valuable for everyone in the talent acquisition ecosystem. So please, what's the easiest, what method do you prefer for someone reaching out to you?
LinkedIn's the best place, yeah.
Perfect, Kate. Really good advice, I think, for everyone in the talent acquisition ecosystem. I think they should be looking you up and figuring out what you're doing. On that note, please do check out resumewallet.com. And we're doing some really cool things and would love to have a conversation. Have a fantastic day.